So we are all that stands between you and dinner.
Yeah, we better keep it short.
Yeah.
Because we're running a little behind. We
Yeah.
need to catch up. It's 5:45. Have you guys been here since this morning? Is anybody in here this morning for that one? It was Hacking Innovation Insights with Rolf. Is Rolf in the room? Can't see. He said something I really didn't like. So I'll say it.
Yeah, you can say it
He
now.
may be in the room, he's not here. No, even if he was. He said the worst time of the day to do anything important, like try to get your parole approved, right now, end of the day.
Yeah.
So, but he said some things that I really did like. One was he was talking about just the amazing advancements in technology with research. He talked about how we can get insights now through mobile. You know, it's almost ubiquitous, both sensory and just immediate feedback, and just the importance of being able to take different technologies and combine them to get to the truth and to get the best insights. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. I was like, wow, he set it up. We're closing the day here. It's pretty good. So we're not selling anything. We'll tell a story real quick of how we combine technology from a few different sources to best answer the question at hand.
The clicker is here.
Like there. So if it's such a great time to be in research with all these amazing technologies, why does my face look like that? Did anybody have a little girl who kind of growls when they get mad? Okay, mine used to do that. And that's kind of how, when you go to a conference like this, you get so inspired because you hear all of these amazing techniques. You're like, oh my gosh, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. And then sometimes a business case presents itself and all you want to do is combine little pieces of this with little pieces of that. And this is the story we're going to tell today. Let's see.
So we're going to start by going a little bit backwards in time. So we've been talking about the latest in technology, the latest in the future, and what it's going to look like. But I think it's important to kind of step back and think about, well, what is it that we get? What's the drive? And the drive is to understand what's going on with people when things happen and what their emotions are and what their behaviors are. And I love this image. It's actually from a movie. Does anybody recognize this movie? You know, yeah, Charlie, you got it. So this is a movie called Kitchen Stories. It came out like maybe 10 years ago. It was a small Scandinavian film, and it was about this guy in post-war Scandinavia who is the guy in the high chair, and he goes up to this rural area, and his job is to study this guy in the foreground in order so they can make better kitchen products. And most of the movie is the guy sitting in the high chair watching the guy in the foreground and waiting for him to do something. It was not a hit in the box office. You might not be totally surprised. It lasted about 20 minutes. But what I love about this picture is it really describes that from the beginning, the intent with qualitative research and understanding people was that drive to be that fly on the wall, to see what's happening, when it's happening, and understand why it's happening so that you can then build it into decision making. And so we fast forward, and qual has evolved now. But I think that impulse to be there, what you hear with mobile and communities and in the moment research, is still, it is the descendant of that same drive. It's of the same. And I think that's a really important drive. I think it's important to separate what are the underlying drivers versus the technology. The technology is still serving those same drives because we're still serving the same goals: understand people, answer business questions. And so that has evolved, and now I would say we're in the age of algorithms, where algorithms, I think if you looked at the majority of presentations today, there are algorithms that are behind all of that technology, whether it's the facial coding or eye tracking or all the things that we talked about. They are being driven by algorithms that are doing the math. And because we have the processing power and the computer power, we're starting to be able to use this stuff and make real dents in some things that we just didn't have the ability to do before. So that's all well and good. And it gives us this way to do measurements that we couldn't do before on a scale that we couldn't do before. We could do things very manually, such as facial coding, but we couldn't do it at scale or at a big enough scale where it made as much impact as it could or should. So a lot of times when new stuff rolls in, it tries to do it or position at the expense of what's already been there. So something that phrase, "this changes everything," which is a cliche in itself now, because as soon as I hear that, I know nothing's changed at all, because it's been so overused. But that there's this sort of hype that says, okay, forget the old and embrace the new, even though the new still needs some time to prove itself. And so there's a little bit of what we call mudslinging sometimes. And so this is really, two very professional researchers having a very thoughtful discussion about differing methods, and they're settling it in a way that is appropriate to our great profession. But it's not really a either-or type of thing. This is about, hey, we've got a sandbox that we're all playing in. We've got a mission that we're all fulfilling or on behalf of our clients, whether they're internal or external. And really, our job is to get the answers so that people can make decisions. So in order to do that, it's more about leveraging the best of what's available and making those things work together and understanding what their strengths and what their challenges are. And that's what this talk is really about, is like taking the new, taking the old, and then finding what works in one and how they support each other. And it really, I think, produces a pretty surprising result. So, and that's what this study is about, how we leveraged 3 different organizations, Focus Vision with Revelation, Affectiva for the facial coding, and Elevated Insights. And that's where I'll turn it back over to Debbie.
Thank you. And it was such a pleasure to have, that was a picture of Rana in the sandbox too. She's not here today. And Steve, and they just work together so well, so seamlessly, just so willing to partner and bring the best of their technologies together to help address a business situation we were facing. So what we were facing, we were trying to help one of our clients who was trying to develop almost a PR type ad campaign. They had 4 different animatics in play. Their target was male, pretty manly male, and they really wanted to drive emotion. So the ad agency wanted to see that emotion being driven, but we're thinking, you put a bunch of tough guys in a room and you want to watch them cry, in a circle around a table. I don't know that that's going to work. But then they also really wanted to understand a lot of the other pieces like, is this ownable? Could any brand do this? What's the main message? And they also wanted to kind of create social media buzz. So there were a few different goals. They had animatics that were, now animatics to me look pretty close to finished film. They look pretty good. They were all in play, and they wanted to decide which one should they go with and how should they best optimize the animatics. They wanted the emotional read. They really did. But they needed some of the rational pieces too. They wanted to check main message communication, if certain elements were really coming through, if they would take that next action step, because a lot of it was to go to a website and take action based on it. So, we were playing around with pros and cons of all these messages, and it was right after a conference like this, and we're always viewing webinars and trying to stay up on the new techniques. So we knew that you could get a lot of this through webcams, where with facial coding has evolved to the point where consumers can view ads in their home while the webcam is recording their facial expressions, and you're able to see when they're changing their expression. So we wanted that, and we liked the idea of them evaluating it in their home, so there wouldn't be groupthink, and they would let their guard down, and they might show emotions. But at the same time, the ad agency's pushback was, but we need that first reaction. I don't want them to just watch this thing and then go to a platform and type their thoughts. What if that was 10 minutes later? I want to hear the emotion right after they watch the ad and see what's going on. So we kind of talked to Affectiva and we talked to Revelation, now Focus Vision, about, Focus Vision in our mind was the best platform for this client to get the rational reactions captured. They could even replay the ad within Focus Vision and do that. But we also wanted that first viewing with the immediate feedback of the emotive analytics so that we would know exactly where to probe. Because those of you who are qualitative consultants know, well, even with open ends, of the conservation of comments, there's only so much they're going to say. And we really wanted to laser focus our questioning to the most impactful 2 or 3 things to talk about before we moved on. So what we did was we recruited 50 respondents who were I don't think I included that slide, nationally dispersed. We set up specific times that we were going to chat with them on the phone, had their webcams linked. We kind of walked them through the process because a lot of times people need help with technology, but to link their phones, we had them then, or link their computers and the webcam with the site. We had them set down their phone so that they could fully focus on the ad. They would watch the ad, and as they were watching the ad, you can kind of see in the bottom picture, the green one where the curve is going. Our moderators, just through the phone, were able to see exactly where their curve was laying out through the ad and know, hey, about 17 seconds in, what was going on there? Talk to me, what was happening there? And then we had a real-time live conversation, hearing, understanding, and recording the emotion in their voice. Then they went to the platform afterwards and gave that more rational main message, specific likes, specific dislikes, are they going to take any action, could any brand do it, that kind of stuff. So what did we find? We were so excited. We thought, hey, we are really onto something here. This is holistic. It's not just one piece of the puzzle. We felt like we were getting a really nice 360 view. These guys really did let their guard down at home. We were hearing tears through the phone, or what it often ended up being was silence, because they were composing themselves while waiting to respond to a question. So the facial coding and that immediate graph that we were able to see really gave us the specific points we knew we wanted to ask about. But the fusion, like what they told us on the phone and what they communicated through the platform, gave us all of the why kind of answers that we were seeking. And I'll just add here, somebody told me once, you should always explain that these aren't real people. These are obviously stock photo models, because we would never put our respondents in a presentation like this. So there was a clear emotional roller coaster that the ad was taking people on. You can see like this, the pink line here was one guy's roller. He was up and down and up and down, and and just asking him what was going on. He saw this and he said, I saw my life played out on screen. Essentially, I was reliving my life, and it's really cool to understand some of those peaks and valleys. If we hadn't fused the methods, we could have misinterpreted the results and we could have missed some really important insights. One was, if you pause for a moment and just pretend you were in a room, elevator, I don't know, a room where you didn't want people to see you, and you were getting all choked up, what would you do with your face to not cry? We found a lot of people were making a face, it was registering almost like a dislike. They were pursing their lips. And if we'd only looked at the emotive charts and where it was, scoring relative to other ads, we would have thought dislike. But we knew they didn't dislike it because we were hearing their voice and we saw their feedback. We knew that it was very moving to them. The other thing that we noticed is there was a place towards the end of the ad, one of the animatics, where concentration really surged. And you might think, wow, good job, we're really grabbing their attention here. But that happened to be the exact moment in time in that particular animatic where there was an element introduced that they were like, WTF, what's that down here? They didn't understand the linkage. There was a total lack of understanding, and that caused them to draw in closer to try to understand it. So it wasn't necessarily great, that concentration wasn't great. And so having, again, the different technologies together enabled us to get to that. Sometimes, as researchers, we're always trying to get our clients to look at the big picture, and not hone in on a couple of people's reactions. But occasionally when a company is really trying to do something nice, like a PR kind of thing, they really don't want to tick anyone off. And there was one irate viewer. He thought that the ad was the worst thing. He took offense, he was mad, he was spewing on Revelation. We're like, oh my gosh. Somehow he really got this message wrong. What did we do? So we were able to go back and play the tape, play the webcam viewing of this gentleman. And turns out he had dropped his phone. He was like crawling under the desk, grabbing his phone like the picture, trying to get it. He wasn't watching the ad at all. So knowing that and being able to say, okay, I know that's not what you want to hear, but know that he didn't really see the ad and there's a reason for it. So all in all, the brand, they selected the one brand did much better than the others, selected it, and they were able to optimize it. Because one thing that was surprising was within the animatics how polarizing they were. So we were able to go in and tweak those polarizing elements so that it was not only the strongest, but that the dislike among a few folks was addressed. And I think it got well over 1 million views on Facebook, 25,000 shares, so they were really pleased with the result overall. So kind of my takeaway from all of it, it's funny, I've been in research longer than I care to admit, but when I started, everybody had this little poster in their cubes, and you guys have probably seen it, the fast, good, cheap, pick two, and we thought we were so clever. But that's not really true anymore. I really don't think it is. I think with the technology and the way it's changing and all these options, I think we just need to keep our eyes and ears open to what combination of things would best address the objective at hand. And also to really remember the importance with big data and all these amazing things we're learning about today with analytics, how important that human element still is. To be sure you're always layering in that human element of understanding so we don't misinterpret some of the insights. I'll turn it over back to you.
So it was a great experience. It's one of those stories that I tell all the time. It's about the facial coding that picked up that this was a really negative reaction to an ad, and then the person reported, yeah, I was so worked up, I was really mad that this ad was working on me. And that's how, so if you just took facial coding, you took the new technology, you would come to one answer that might be inaccurate. And if you layer the two, then you get the full story. This is working, and this is how it is working and why. And I think that's the power of what we are all experiencing at this conference today. So thank you very much. We're happy to take whatever questions we have time for.
Questions for our speakers? We got the next 30 minutes for questions.
So it was a collaboration. Who initiated the collaboration to make this happen?
Elevated Insights did. A lot of us at this conference here are providers of custom qual solutions to help our clients meet their needs. And so the more we can go to conferences and see what's available, the better package of solutions we can bring to our customers.
And was the complexity challenging, or was it?
It had its challenges when you do something new for the first time and you're integrating different systems.
I should let Kaylee answer that.
Yeah.
Our manager in the front, she was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's always challenging, but I think each time it gets easier.
Yeah.
Seriously? So we're hungry. Thank you.
Thank you.